won't answer on the grounds of being incriminating.
Sure, that's good. We don't want that. We want to use the money for drilling. Not
sure, yes, of course.
So, Lost City.
Yes.
Did I understand it right? That is 2 cities, or is
yes.
it? Yeah, there's 2 cities.
Logroño de los Caballeros and Sevilla de Oro.
And are we getting close to the locations? Do we know roughly where they are? Are we
more or less?
More or less.
More or less.
And those 2 locations, are they inside our concessions, or they?
That I'm not going to answer.
Okay. Good. Next question is Peru. For me, it's a great value, and I thought it was an interesting move. When did we start looking into it? When was the first time we saw?
I saw an article in the Mining Journal that was released before the PDAC 2 years ago about Hannan mining, and it said copper and silver and sediments in Peru. And I thought to myself, hey, copper and sediments in Ecuador, what the heck is going on? And I looked at their website, and the geological horizon that Hannan was investigating is exactly the same as what we have in Ecuador, except 2 countries, 2 different names. That's the only thing. So anyway, they're time equivalents. They're the same sorts of rocks and all the rest of it. It made perfect sense to go and grab it before somebody else. And you know, I think that it was very, very fortuitous with the timing, because Hannan got more ground after we had filed our application, so they couldn't file on top of us. And also Barron came in and ring statements. We don't know what they're doing, and of course they don't make any press releases because it's so big. But we do know that they're interested in copper.
And what's the plan for Peru right now? Do we have any?
Well, Peru is not being given any value in the company, and you know, I need to do essentially what they say, unlocking value. And there are many different ways you can unlock value. One would be with a joint venture. One would be with a straight sale. And one would be with a spin-out, where the existing shareholders of Urania have a big piece of the spin-out company. So I'm considering 3 different strategies right now. We can't do all things. We have our hands full. We have so many targets in Ecuador right now. We are stretched quite thin. And also, realistically, I would have to set up a whole new team, management team, geologist, all the rest of it out of Lima. And I'm not prepared to do that right now. So certainly I can find the expertise, but it is a management issue. And essentially I have my hands full right now, so it makes sense to do something there.
Yeah. Good. And what about the third drill?
Sitting in the box for the time being.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, if and when we need it, and let's say that we do drill some of these porphyries and we have real success, then the drill is right there. I mean, to the south of us at Warinsa, on Solaris' property, that's only 15 kilometers south of our boundary, they have 12 drills now.
Wow.
And they've had trouble getting those drills, finding them, right? Getting them, importing them in country and all the rest of it. So we have one extra, so to speak, sitting on the property right now. And yeah, at some point we can make use of it.
Lovely. Any chance we will find nickel on our property?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not the right geological
No,
environment,
right.
unfortunately.
I heard something about you becoming the advisor for the president. Can you tell us more about it, or is it still a little bit in the book?
Well, it's not a secret or anything, but when I did meet with President Lasso about 2 months ago, he asked me. He issued a decree actually, and part of the decree was that he wanted to have an international advisory committee, and so I'm helping him put that together. Advisory committee to the President's office, specifically on mining matters. And I feel it's a great honor to have this. I think it's a great thing to have friends, and it's like having friends in the White House, right?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
That's true. Good. And so, I've heard that the office for applying for more concessions is, it's locked down, or
Yes.
they kept. It was something about some bribery that.
No, not bribery. It had been hacked.
Okay.
And this was almost 3 years ago now. So it's what's the mining registry called the cadastral, and it's online, or was online, and it's really through that online portal that it got hacked, and so the government had to take it down. They've been trying to find ways to open it up again. That's one of the things that I have been giving advice on, and it is the President's mandate to get it open as soon as possible, and I do think it'll happen within the next 6 months. Can we get more ground? We can, if it's strategic, if there's little bits and pieces, we're very, very careful with what we do as far as maps go, and showing where the different prospects are, and that's intentional, because some of these things do trend. Solaris, the Solaris company, has got a market cap of $1.5 billion Canadian, right? And that happened. Essentially, the moves have been almost up from 30 cents to $14 in about 18 months.
Yeah.
Based on one or two concessions, that's all. Can we do the same sort of thing? Absolutely. There's no reason why we can't, and we're right in the same belt of rocks. This is one of the reasons why we do what we do.
Yeah. All right. I know it's a bit early to talk about it, but what about? I'm a little bit interested about when it's time to sell. I mean, for me, we're about $400 away from selling, so we have a little bit way to go. But explain the value of a joint venture. What's the upside with having a joint venture? Except I assume you use other people's money when you drill, but what's the?
Yeah, well, I own over 40% of the company, and realistically, and I just put some more money in the company in this financing. So, but realistically, when can I sell? When it's going up vertically, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's happy, and so I can take some money off the table. And I probably will at some point. I'm not going to hold on like grim death forever. If we have this opportunity, and I suspect that we will, I'm prepared to lighten up and let somebody else have some of my position and run with it. For everyone else, I think that certainly I'm planning for success. I have been for a long time. We've got a number of different strategies in the can, which I can't really talk about, but we've got plan A, B, C, D right now, and it's quite possible that all of them come together, not just one of them. So that would be just fantastic. Joint ventures. Now, how do they work? It's a pretty standard thing in the industry. Essentially, you bring in a partner, and that partner would assume, let's say, all the costs up to, sometimes it's right up to full feasibility, sometimes in some cases right up until the time the mine is built and commissioned. But that's rare, that's rare. Usually what happens, the joint venture takes it up to feasibility, and then construction and everything is proportionally shared between the partner and ourselves. In the best case, the partner actually lends you the money to do your proportion, carry out your proportion of the build, and to get the money back through production. And that's a wonderful thing if you can get that strategy going. So typically it will be staged with a bunch of milestones of expenditure, and maybe a partner, a major partner could take 75%, 70% for an expenditure of X number of dollars over X number of years, and then you've got 30% retained. Now look at it another way. If you want to go at it level, you're going to have to keep financing and financing and financing and financing, and it'll get more and more expensive. In the case of Beryllium, we had Kinross spent $150 million changing it from a resource into a reserve. That's because of the density of drilling that was needed. $150 million. Just imagine what that would do to a junior miner, how much paper you'd have to push out, how many shares would have to be created. You have a share count way in the billions. So you weigh things up here, and strategically the smarter thing is when the majors come sniffing around for a deal, you do a deal with them and get it off your back, and then they spend the money, or you spend their money. In a lot of cases, you can end up being the operator, and they provide the money and maybe a couple of personnel, and then you carry on.
And what about a drill lab? Is it any point of putting up a small lab on the property at this point, or do you need, like, when you holds a month to make it feasible?
Yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive. Doesn't make sense. What you usually do is you get the assay company to provide a facility, and they oversee the whole thing, not the company, because everything has to be done. Obviously, it has to be done to a certain standard, it has to be certified, it has to be signed off, and all the rest of it. You don't want any hanky-panky between the company and the lab. So that's why really a lot of companies just don't do it. It's easier, faster, and more secure just to send it off to the lab, let them have the headache of security and all the rest of it. I mean, if we had multiple targets in an advanced stage, right? So we're drilling, putting a reserve together, maybe it makes sense. But that's for way down the road, yeah.
And which labs do we send them all to Canada right now, or do we use any local labs, or is there any local labs?
Yeah, we use a lab, a preparation lab in Cuenca, which is not too far away, and so they crush the rock, and then they do a split, what they call a split, and that goes in a FedEx parcel to Canada, and then it's analyzed there under and certified. So it's a pretty standard, very straightforward operation.
Good.
Lots more.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We're getting halfway up.
Okay.
So I have a question. I have some questions for the other guys in the group as well.
Sure.
Let's go with Dane, because it's an interesting subject that I'm interested about is asked, did we lose any concessions in Peru neighboring the Han San Martin project?
Aha. All the concessions have not come through yet. So there's still a lot of them pending. The Peruvian government has been very, very slow to issue concessions. Now, we suspected that some of the concessions would not be granted because they are in some areas that have been provisionally declared national parks and withdrawn. So we thought we'd give it a go and see if we could get concessions in those areas, but some of the areas have been declined and the money returned to us. We suspect that would happen.
Good. And then I have a question from Junkie Monkey. What's being done about the Lost Cities access?
It's not an easy situation, right? And you just can't go into indigenous communities like you're driving a tank and expect that they're all going to welcome you with open arms. People are suspicious of our motives sometimes. And in the case of one of the lost cities, as I've said before, I suspect that there might be some illegal gold mining going on in a very, very, very small way. Now, we're not talking about thousands of people, we're talking tens of people at most, that's all. But, people, if they're illegals, they have no right to be there. And if the company comes in, the company will push them off. That's the perception anyway. It's a delicate matter. Certainly we're not terribly interested in the couple of $100s a day that maybe these guys make, right?
No.
We're after much, much bigger fish and things that are, you drill at depth and whatever. So, in other places in Ecuador, people have made deals with illegal miners. I just don't really know the status of this, and so I wish and still I don't know for sure that one of the lost cities is there. I don't know for certainty. I haven't been on the ground. I haven't walked it, right?
No.
So it's hypothetical at this stage. And I'm not going to go and cause a big controversy and potential violence that is going to spill over into all of our other concessions for the sake of that. I think it would be very, very, very short-sighted. So, as they say in Spanish, poco a poco, little by little. And, the way that it's working, we go into one area, we provide jobs to the local community, and then this place, maybe who was very, very anti-mining and anti-us, suddenly changes their mind and saying, hey, come in and give our people some jobs. And that's the way it's been working for the last 4 years. So it's, the acceptance is growing over time. And I'm confident that eventually we'll have access to 100% of the ground.
Good. And another one from Junkie Monkey. How do you feel, a bit silly question, but let's go. How do you feel about the placing price and the stock price? It's been down so hard. I know we talked about you didn't really got the first one.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of retail people who don't understand how the markets work. And when you raise money, you almost always have to give a discount to the market price. You do that in order to get the investors to come in, right? So when you do this, when you announce, almost immediately what happens is that the share price falls down to that offering price. And why? It's because the people who are involved in the financing can sell their shares, they can buy in, and they buy back in at a lower price, get a warrant as well, right? So it's a hell of a good deal for them. So it became difficult to complete that financing. We had to go to some people that we had met in Denver the previous couple of weeks who were falling all over themselves to give us money, right? But they said, we don't want to do a small amount, we want to do a large amount. 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. Because then they make their fees and it's significant for them, right? 5 million is not significant for them. So you start over with them and you have to discount it again, right? And so it gets discounted twice, and people who didn't understand what was going on. I even had a person ask me if we were being nationalized, and of course not. It's craziness, right? And this happens every time. The share price has fallen, the financing closes, and then it stabilizes when the financing's closed and finished, and we make a press release along those lines, and then it goes back up again. So materially, nothing has changed. We haven't lost any concessions. We haven't had an uprising against us or anything like that. So it's going to be business as usual.
Did hole 7 end in the pyrite zone?
It did. We're still waiting for assays on that.
How many holes are planned for the Tassel Ham project?
Tassel Ham.
Yeah, Tassel Ham, yes.
Indeterminate. It all depends on what we find in the first couple of holes, right? And people who've read the prospectus and use of proceeds must realize that that's only a guide. So, of course, we're on the project, and we're not going to pad ourselves with money, and it's going to be spent in the ground. But if the situation changes and we hit something that's really good, then the plan as it exists goes out the window, and we focus on that, and that's as it should be. It's all good news, and the securities people don't have any problem with that, just as long as the money is spent wisely and on the project, and the whole business finds its exploration. And as long as we're doing exploration, and particularly if we have some success and everybody's happy.
And the same question goes for the Curry Pan area.
Yeah, Curry Pan is on the back burner right now. Tassel Ham certainly has been moved up in priority, and Awacha. Now, you're probably aware that copper is at a 10-year high right now. And as I said earlier, Solaris has got a market cap of $1.5 billion. Maybe some shareholders don't like us spending money on porphyry copper, but it's the flavor of the month. We know that there's lots of other copper porphyry discoveries going on. Just made a release today. Very interesting, and it's essentially the flavor of the month, right? And we're not chasing trends here, so we're not going to go suddenly and start talking about rare earths or nickel.
Yes.
But I think we can get our biggest bang for the buck. These are huge targets, right?
Yeah.
They're difficult to miss with a drill.
Did we just get access to Tassel Ham?
Yeah.
And what about access to the Awacha fault zone?
Yeah, well, there's no fault zone in the Awacha.
Right.
The porphyries are there. There's 2, possibly 3 of them. They come to surface. And we're busy negotiating land access right now. Those targets would be drilled first quarter next year.
Good. And out of the two, Abacha and Tassel, which one are you more excited about? If you have to choose one.
Oh gosh, really? Maybe Tassel because it's so big. It's so compelling. Looks like a great big barnacle on the face of the magnetic survey.
Good. How's the sinking fault zone from, this is, I don't know who this is from, but someone is asking about access to the sinking fault zone in Richard Spencer's presentation from the summer camp.
I don't know specifically what that's referring to. Second, we're going to put a couple more holes on, and then I'll go quiet on it for a while, because I think Tassel is a much bigger deal. You know, maybe we're going to get lucky drilling some more holes at Senken. And the thing is, you see, we get our share price up. We obviously are going to have to raise money again at some point, way down the road. But I want to do it at a much higher price.
And this is from Korojev. What is the status regarding hole 4 in TS? Has it started yet?
No. Hasn't started yet. So 4 and 5 are going to be drilled in the richest and thickest parts of Turiashipia that we've found on surface. And same sort of thing as with Senken. We drill 4 and 5 and then stop and evaluate what the results are. And you know, essentially, I don't want to undress the bride before the wedding. So I want to have some teasers here. I expect they're going to be nice holes, but I need some ammunition to go and talk to potential joint venture partners. No.
Good. And I think that's this. I have some fringe questions all around. 3 more right now. And
sure.
Will you be selling in one big lump, or will you sell them?
Me personally?
Yeah, personally, your shares. Will they go in one big lump, or will you drip it out a little bit here for going to other projects, or maybe to your foundation, or I don't know what you're going to do with all your money, but it's
no idea.
No, all right. So it's too early.
I don't know.
Okay. I know it's early question as well, but we talked about 2 days ago a little bit about listing in Sweden.
Yes.
Would that be? Is that at least on your next board meeting?
I think I'm going to discuss it with my individual board members before the board meeting, but as I am aware, we have more than 2,000 shareholders now in Sweden, and that's a very, very significant number. I know that some of them have had trouble through their banks and institutions, whatever, to get involved in the private placements, largely because of sending money overseas and things like that. And probably it's going to be easier and more straightforward for these agencies if we did have a listing in Stockholm. So, you know, we'll go into it. We'll look at the cost. We'll see what the rules are. I'm not going to say we're necessarily going to do it, but going to give it a hard examination.
And also, you keep on mentioning the Lassanne Curve. Could it really be implemented on a junior mining like this?
Lassanne Curve.
Yes.
Well,
I mean, you have multiple targets.
Yeah, the Lassanne Curve, you know, essentially, Pierre Lassanne constructed this around 35 years ago. And with exploration, you start off at a low base, and then when you make a discovery, your share price goes up like this, and then when you're in the development phase, it will go down, it'll trend down, like this, back up again when you're in production. And Lundin Gold and Aurelian before, classic situations. Aurelian, of course, went from 30 cents to $43 on the base of exploration. And then when Kinross took it over, it just kind of went like this. And it was like that for a while with London Gold. And then when London Gold put it into production, it's gone straight up again. So the timelines are very long. I myself have no interest at all in putting anything in production. I'm 59 years old. I don't want to be 85 when I'm doing this. I want to be on somewhere. Hopefully I'm still alive and retired somewhere. But no, realistically it takes 15 years to get a gold mine up and running. And during that period, the chances are excellent that the politics are going to change in the country. And in Ecuador, it's very, very volatile, as everyone's aware. And also business cycles. You know, you're up and down. There might be another good banking crisis. Who knows? But it makes a lot more sense to sell it, joint venture, whatever, at the top of the curve when you've got the exploration, when you've found something, and that's the time to potentially get out and not struggle with going through trying to build the thing. I have no experience building a mine, and I would have to change out my whole board and all the officers to get that expertise within the company. And I think, you know, realistically for a junior company, you're going to run out of steam, you're going to get smashed at some point in that period of time and taken over. So why even attempt it, right? You know, people get, it's an ego thing, I think, at this stage. It's an ego thing, and one of our competitor companies in Ecuador did follow down this road and talk about going into production, and of course that person is he's no longer the chairman of that, just because it doesn't make sense.
But how does that apply for us? Because we have multiple targets.
Yes. So the idea would be to the first one. You know, I don't know at the end of the day if a large company is going to want to take the whole parcel, right? I'm sure they would love to. I would prefer that not to happen, but we'll have to see what the circumstances are. I mean, if there's a banking crisis going on at the time, then maybe I just have to take what I can get. But let's hope for the best here, and we have multiple discoveries on different parts of the property, and so I can take this piece and give it to X company, this piece give it to Y company, this piece give it to Z company. And realistically what happens in those cases is that the junior will eventually get taken over by the senior company. Or, you know, an offer will come in just to buy that project out. And that's the exit strategy for both me and the shareholders. So you know, it's a very, very big land package. I grant you that, and I think that, boy, I think, you know, 50, 60 years from now, people are still going to be drilling on it and finding things long after I'm gone. We've opened up the Pandora's box on the thing, so to speak. But you know, I think that we go for the stuff that's most compelling, the low-hanging fruit, if you like, and have a win here. And you know, hopefully we come up with a nice big porphyry discovery with good copper grade and some gold in it as well. And then everything looks very, very different next year.
Yeah. Any last words you want to say to the community of Discord? Or?
The Discord.
Yeah.
Well, just to say that I am very, very pleased with the reception I've been given here in Malmo, and it's been great meeting members of the group, and I think it's an amazing thing that you've done, putting this group together, certainly with no input from our company. It's like we have a bunch of groupies here, a fan base. I almost feel like going into meetings, there's a mosh pit, something like that. They're going to pick me up and carry me. But no. Well, I'd be pretty hard to carry anyway. Yeah. But in any case, it's been really, really interesting, and certainly I'm going to come back.
That's good. Thank you very much, Richard. Keith. Richard, where's Richard?
Where is Richard?
Bring him on. He's in the jungle, isn't he?
He's in the field.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Okay.